So this is the Kiwi Ears Halcyon. It's the cheapest wired tribrid IEM at $200 for early bird pricing, and it will retail for $259 USD, sporting a one dynamic free balanced armature and that new fangled MEMS driver. Well, can Kiwi Ears pull off this innovation? Let's find out. If you like the show, help the channel grow with a like and a sub. You're watching Lumerion, and let's get into it. So the Halcyon's box may be small in footprint, but it contains a lot inside. Slide off the sleeve, open the lid, and the Halcyon sits in thick foam looking real shiny. Below that is a small but practical carrying case, the same one included with the Kiwi's Etude, which I reviewed a while back. Inside are all the accessories, including some smoky gray ear tips in narrow and wide bore flavors, and the replacement filters for the Halcyon. The included cable is a well-built copper-colored wire with a modular jack. However, if you do want better color matching, Kiwi Ears also sells the Terrace cable in collaboration with B Media, with a more sleek black color that matches the Halcyon's silver, and a lower profile jack than the stock cable. I think overall, Kiwi Ears has given a well-equipped accessories package for the Halcyon. You get some nice ear tips to test out the sound, although I would have appreciated some more variety, and you do have a solid case to store it in once you're done. So the silver look and shape of the Halcyon reminds me a lot of the Moondrop Lan and the Leisure S8. But with the Halcyon, you've got these geometric patterns that shift contrast under different lighting. It looks quite cool. And the metal build is as premium as expected. Just listen to these tapping sounds. Yeah, it's pretty solid metal. Now the Halcyon also wears pretty well on the ear. It's pretty small compared to like the resin built IEMs, and I've spent multi-hour long sessions listening to it with no fit issues. And I'm telling you, you'll want to listen to this for a long time because the Halcyon, it sounds really good with a bass-leaning neutral signature. With fun bass and the MEMS driver, it gives the mids and highs a really unique presentation. The low end on the Halcyon is all sub-bass, no breaks. It dominates most songs, sometimes even bleeding into and masks the lower mid-range. Good news though, there's no lack of low end on the Halcyon, that's for sure, and you will get a lot of slam factor, even on like moderately bassy tracks. It's like a viscous kind of bass that can be speedy when required. If I hit some JEDM like this song from Dainambu called, I think, Itaraki Baberu or something, the extra deep bass extension really helps to infuse energy into this song that usually it sounds bass light on other IEMs. Bad news is the Halcyon can overdo its bass at times, especially in Ryusegon by Suisei, where the deep bass lines, it just becomes overbearing and it starts to intrude into the melodies. The lower mid-range is dead neutral. It's a bit cold, honestly, overshadowed by that sub-bass energy. Kiwi Ears likely did this to maximize detail and avoid mud, but personally, I would have preferred a bit more warmth here. Some EQ does help that quite well, although it doesn't like portray vocals with the same refinement as like a Tangium or a Moondrop. Upper mids are solid with natural tonality and giving equal presence to both vocals and the accompanying instruments. The coolest thing is you get to see the MEMS driver aiding in that detail production. You're getting like off the charts resolution in the macro details. This is one of those rare IEMs that make you want to revisit your entire music library. Johnny Cash's Hurt, for example, it sounds great on the Halcyon with some of the most realistic sounding guitar strings I've heard on an IEM. Seriously. And the strain and the shaky voice of Johnny Cash, which is like the key element to that song, it is excellently separated and high resolution. Even more impressive is Let's Go by Stuck in the Sound, This is a rock song, and when I played it through the Halcyon, I'm hearing little guitar flicks and melodies for the first time, because in other IEMs, these details tended to be kind of lumped into this wall of noise. On the Halcyon, you can actually hear definition and detail there. That's awesome. I love it when an IEM can genuinely show me something new from my music, and the Halcyon definitely accomplished that mission. I was honestly quite surprised with the Halcyon's treble, but in a good way. I expected the air frequencies to be more prevalent, but actually no. The MEMS driver is actually working to sharpen the lower treble range and imbue it with resolving ability. The result is really sharp overtones, but done tastefully, so it doesn't become like downright ear grating. Just enough of bite and clarity to add tangible detail to your tracks. I'm discovering like a whole new dimension to some old rhythm albums like Mastodon's Decimate EP or Ray Volpe's Bipolar EP. Both of these albums have like really sharp and incisive synths that the Halcyon manages to maximize from its treble range, giving it a unique presentation that I haven't heard in other IEMs. But the sharp treble combined with the powerful bass, it makes the Halcyon a great choice for handling heavier genres. The Halcyon's soundstage is perhaps the most unimpressive part of what is otherwise a very impressive IEM. It's got average stage width and like pretty weak stage height actually. I think that's because the MEMS driver, it's pushing a lot of macro details right to the front of your ears. So it kind of ignores positioning for all the instruments. It's all very focused into your ear, and it makes the Halcyon lack a strong sense of imaging. Macro detail on the Halcyon though is really good, like defying its price tier. There are $500 IEMs that will not show you macro details as good as the Halcyon does. I have to emphasize again though, I don't think the MEMS driver is giving you more details. It is taking what details that exist and giving it more resolution. If anyone asks me what's the difference between detailability and resolution, I will say the Halcyon is a good example to check that out. Because despite the strong macro detail separation, micro details are not as impressive. I mean, it's mostly matching its price level. Still pretty good, just not as impressive as the macro part. It's almost like because the main details are so emphasized and clearly separated that the finer nuances have mostly been masked away. Still though, considering the impressive resolution on display, it's really a small nitpick, and most people who listen to the Halcyon will definitely be impressed by its technical ability. For $300, the Binary Acoustics EP321 also sports a very similar driver setup with the Halcyon, including that MEMS technology and an extra passive dynamic diaphragm. But is it worth the extra premium at $300? Well, the Binary EP321 has a less premium build actually, with a resin back and a metal front plate, whilst the Halcyon it goes for the full metal build. The EP321's shell is bigger, but it is lighter and a little bit more ergonomic thanks to the plastic, whilst the Halcyon's is more dense and it's basically solid crafted metal, you know? Sound-wise, I think the biggest difference between the two is gonna be the bass. The Halcyon it goes for a meaty sub-bass slam that reaches deep, sometimes even becoming overly aggressive and kind of bleeding into the mids. Whereas the EP321's low end, it's more reserved, less sub-bass dominated, and its lower mids have a slight tinge more warmth, which I do like. Vocals come off slightly more emphasized on the EP321, whilst the Halcyon keeps voices at the same level with instruments and melodies. Treble on both, they have that sharpness you get from the MEMS driver, but the EP321, it's a little bit more emphasized, which sometimes it descends into this kind of wispy resonance, whilst the Halcyon's lower treble range, it feels more well controlled, still sharp, although it's sometimes a bit ineffectual in certain tracks. Now, if we go by pure technical ability, honestly, both of these are like evenly matched to my ears. The Halcyon's bass tends to overreach at points and it masks some of the details, but with some EQ, it can easily be tamed. If you want a brighter presentation that shows off that treble crispiness more, yeah, the EP321 is the IEM to get. But for me, the Halcyon performs at a close enough level and at a lower price as well. It's honestly quite amazing that flagship tech from just like a year or so ago is already trickling into the mid-range. And with the Halcyon, you legitimately are getting a really good implementation of the MEMS drivers in order to boost separation and resolution abilities, matching and at times surpassing IEMs that are many times its price. It also undercuts close competitors, becoming the cheapest tribrid IEM with MEMS tech at the time of this video, all while delivering solid build quality and a powerful bass-leaning neutral sound that doesn't offend at any regard, all while delivering solid build and a powerful bass-forward neutral tuning that doesn't really offend in any regard. If you have $250 to spare and you want like a really technically accomplished IEM, I'm pretty confident that the Kiwi Ears Halcyon will more than suffice for your needs. And until you go like beyond $500, it's pretty much end game, honestly. Thank you to Kiwi Ears for providing me a sample of the Halcyon to test out. Regardless, they do not have any creative or editorial control over my content, and all that I've shared in this video are my honest thoughts. Join my Patreon for extra photography of these IEMs and get my photo presets, which aim to take off that sort of stale digital feeling of modern cameras and restore some vintage vibes to your photos. Join the channel membership to get access to cool custom emojis and early access to videos just like these. But if nothing else, thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.